Good afternoon, Tim. This is Tim Kean of Second Harvest Food Bank in Muncie, Indiana. I am Nicole Lunsford with the Ball State University's Middletown Research Project begun by the Lynds. This year we're studying social services and the impact that they make on our community and the impact that has been put upon them by changes in our society. So we're at Second Harvest Food Bank out on the northeast corner of Muncie at the Water Bowl, and this is January 31st, 2019. Thank you for joining me today, Tim.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. So first, I want you to just tell me all about your background, how you got to this position, what possessed you to want to run a food bank. How long have you been with the food bank? Just tell us all.
Okay. My history goes back actually to the grocery business. I started out of college working in grocery business in Anderson. I went to work at Payless Supermarkets and worked there for 25 years and had a great career, loved every minute of it. In 2000, Kroger bought Payless, and so I went to work for Kroger and worked for them for the last 5 years. And so, again, had a great experience, had a lot of opportunities that came my way. I think some of those opportunities came my way because I'm the type of person that rarely says, I don't want to do that, or I can't do that, or I'm not interested. So it kind of became a little bit of a known entity in the organization. So when something new came up, usually someone knocked on my door and asked if I might be interested in trying or learning or in getting involved. And so I always said yes, even if I knew absolutely nothing about it. And so that was the fun part.
Yeah.
And so I got exposed to lots of different kinds of areas within the grocery business. Most of my background is in perishable foods. Was responsible for the programs for all the stores in several of the perishable areas. And Kroger, spent a little bit of time with them as well, and had a period of time when I worked in the division office in meat merchandising, and that was writing the ads and buying the products that went out to 150 stores in 3 states. And so that gave me a little different perspective of some of the work that I had been exposed to previously. So having said all that, after 30 years of that, I began to feel a need to do something different. And I would say for me it was a faith-led decision. I really felt that it's great to be successful at selling food to people and making money doing it. I really felt that it may be more what I was called to do to try to leverage that going forward in a different way. And so 2004, I really felt called to open a church food pantry in my church in Anderson. And so I did, and engaged with Second Harvest to establish our church as an agency who was to receive food from Second Harvest. I had a connection with Second Harvest that goes back prior to that, actually, because I served on the board of Second Harvest off and on through the 80s and through the 90s. And I was board chair in 85 and 86.
Okay.
And so I had a really good idea of what the organization was about and the work that we do. And so when I approached the executive director about becoming an agency and moving forward with that, she said, I'm really working on a successor plan. And so if there's ever a time that it might make sense, if you're ever interested, let me know. And so the next year I said, I think I might be called toward this. And so we got together. I became a staff person at Second Harvest in 2005. And now I leverage those skills and the grocery background in what I do in this line of work.
Amazing, amazing. What a nice fit. So how have services your organization provides changed over the past 20 years? Because you've been involved in it that long.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be fun.
Well, I'd say our organization's been around now for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 30, I think we were very focused on getting food into our facility and getting food out into the service area that we have in the 8 counties that we serve through a network of about 115 different agencies that we work with. And so food in, food out, and try to leverage that as fast, as wide, as deep as we could. And so it turns into millions of pounds of food a year. And so about four years ago, I guess, strategic planning, the board of directors and I discussed the idea and agreed that just distributing food to people really was not enough for us to be doing. It's important. It's always going to be a part of what we do. But we really feel that we needed to be looking at maybe more upstream circumstances for families and think more holistically about families that we are working with that are struggling to make ends meet. So, that in itself represents some challenges that you need to think in terms of what are the resources that we need to pull together in order to step into that. What does that look like? Who's already doing it? Who can we partner with? Or who can we join with? Who can we merge with? And so about 3.5 years ago or so, maybe even getting close to 4 now, I don't remember, but we decided to merge with another nonprofit here in town, Muncie. That organization was Teamwork for Quality Living.
Yes.
And so we merged with them. Their staff came on board with us. And so with that came a program that they had been implementing in the Muncie area for roughly 8 years, I think, 7 or 8 years at that time. And so it was really based around a weekly communal meal in one of the churches downtown at the First Baptist Church.
Oh, yeah.
And there were people from all walks of life coming into that communal meal, and people from middle income, people from wealth were there to also engage to form intentional friendships. And the idea of this program is that nothing really changes unless it's through relationship building.
Yeah.
And so meaningful things happen when you form relationships. And in this program, families who were struggling, who self-identified that they really didn't want to continue the way that they were living, they wanted to make some changes in ways that would provide them with an opportunity to become self-sustaining. And so this program is not designed to hand them something.
Right.
It's really designed to help them self-identify areas that need to have some work and some possible changes or some more education or some background, all sorts of topics, social capital, financial literacy, education.
Right.
There's a spectrum that gets looked at, and people self-identify and where they believe they are, and then through some coursework that they're given over a number of months, they begin to work on some of these areas, and they work on them with the intentional partners from the community, and they meet in small groups, and they go on for a number of months in these small groups, setting smart goals that are mutually accountable. So the people around the table, whether you're from wealth, middle income, or you're from poverty, all have goal setting. And it is looked at on a regular basis, and people are making progress in their goals, and everybody around the table is holding you accountable.
That's impressive. And so that's something that wasn't going on 5 years ago.
No.
And you've stepped in. All right. So how has your organization's relationships with its clients changed over the same time period? Because is the population that you're speaking of also the ones who comes to get food from you?
Most of the time, not always, because there may be folks that currently now we're working with what's called the ALICE population.
Yes, but you might expound on that.
ALICE population is asset limited, income constrained, employed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working with people who have jobs that many times are at the entry level.
Right.
And they're struggling, trying to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm. Between
And
childcare and pets and homes
all
and
those
all
kinds
the
of things.
things.
Right. And so they may or may not be visiting a food pantry that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily always the case. So I think we're maybe tapping into a segment of the demographic that may be outside of some of the services that we had been providing. So it gets us into a new area
Mm-hmm.
of community engagement. And so along with that, about within a year, I guess after the merge, we took another step into our strategic thinking that came through a conversation that I had with a school superintendent in Anderson, the Anderson Community School Superintendent. He and I are both Rotarians, and after a meeting, he shared with me some of the challenges he was facing in his district, and basically said where there's high free and reduced lunch rates in schools, there is low parental engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he really feels that was negatively influencing the child's progress in school. So if there was anything that we might work with them on to help facilitate relationship building, that he thought that would be a huge win. And so we put a program together and began in one or two schools initially, where the school announces to the parents of the children at the school, if they come to school at this time on this day, there's going to be a food distribution, that they can come and access food if they need some help. And they do a pretty thorough job of putting that out there to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So we started, and the idea of this program is the teachers and staff aren't there to pass food out to families.
No.
We find volunteers to do that piece. The teachers and staff are there to engage with families in relationship building, face-to-face, learning their names, learning a little bit about them.
Right.
And so over time, parents begin to see school's not always a negative place. School can be a friendly place. School can be very beneficial for my family for lots of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So currently we now have this program going in 29 schools in 8 counties.
Good.
And so it's growing, it's continuing to grow pretty dynamically. Looking forward to that to continue. One of the additional layers that goes in that program is it goes well beyond food distribution, because level 2, level 3 engagement looks like we bring in other social service providers.
Mm-hmm.
We bring in other institutions into this time when parents are coming into the building, like financial institutions, like healthcare providers, the library, Purdue
Mm-hmm.
Extension, all these entities that are trying to reach the same population.
That's fabulous. Now, you said that you're part of an organization that there's several of these entities. We talked about Gleaners in Marion County a little bit ago. Are they doing these same initiatives, or is this just coming from the ground up here?
Well, they're coming from the ground up here.
Okay.
We're part of a national organization called Feeding America,
Mm-hmm.
and we're made up of about 200 regional food banks that cover the whole United States. But it's really structured like 200 independent operators. We all have similar programs, but we all don't do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly don't do them the same way because of a lot of things like resources, demographics, location. Opens up opportunities and also would be constrictive on some opportunities. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing with relationship building, whether it's through the Forward Steps program, the communal meal, and the middle term strategy that we have, or the longer term, the generational strategy with the schools, we're doing that, and I'm not aware of any other food bank who is doing either of those in any way.
Okay. So what are the key goals of your organization?
Well, the key goals, I would say, are to reach people where they are, and understanding that we have to really get back to places where further upstream that are creating circumstances or represent barriers for people to be able to progress on their own so that they become self-sufficient.
Okay.
Key goal would be to shorten the line of need overall. We're aimed at shortening the line of need.
And so you've kind of already addressed my next question, which would be what are the challenges to that? And that is finding upstream what are causing those problems.
That certainly can be challenging.
Right.
Because food insecurity, the kind of the base level work that we do, that's really one spoke in the whole wheel of poverty. And poverty isn't necessarily just financial poverty. Poverty is really the absence of resources of all sorts of things.
Have you seen this challenge to your goals of food insecurity and relationships, and is it kind of like getting people off on the good start, giving them a hand up and helping them be self-sustaining? Have you seen that change? Has there been more need or less need over the last 20 years? How has it changed over time?
Well, 2008, the Great Recession, there were roughly 80,000 people in our 8-county region that were food insecure. And so currently, it's down to 67,000 people.
Okay.
So the number of food insecure people is trending downward, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's really driven by stronger economy. More people have jobs. Unemployment is down. So when those things happen, there should be less food insecure people. So it's working that way, and we actually expect the number next year to be less than it is this year, barring any unforeseen economic catastrophe.
All right.
So we're seeing progress in the area of food insecurity, and I think that's a good news side of the story. I think we also see challenges in general understanding within communities of why people are where they are. Why are they struggling? And I think many times those challenges represent biases, stereotypes, judgment, those kind of things can represent some serious challenges.
Yes, they can. Let's move into challenges finding staff. You're way out here. And
2 miles from the mall.
There you go.
Not way out here.
I'm in Yorktown, so it's way out here for me. So finding staff and expertise for your organization.
Sure.
What are those challenges?
Well, it's kind of the same for any business in low unemployment times. It's hard to find people. Now, given the skill sets that we look for, they aren't that much different from many other businesses. I mean, we need someone who's got some background in marketing. So do other businesses. We need someone who's skilled in administrative work. So do other businesses. We employ some truck drivers. Other businesses do as well. So I guess maybe a more unique side to the work or the challenge of finding people is maybe in the area where social work kind of backgrounds are very, very useful. And so I guess through a very strong connection with Ball State, we've been able to tap into a really, really good supply of people who are connected with social work, either as students or as AmeriCorps people who have served, or interns. We even have a person who was a former teacher at Ball State in social work. So It is a challenge. Unique set of skills, I think, for depending on the area that we're looking for. Obviously, people could work other places that have the skill sets they have here, and they could work other places and make more money. That's a challenge. It always has been. It's very difficult to compete with the business sector in terms of what you can pay someone if you're in a nonprofit.
Right.
So probably staff-wise, those are some of the challenges. I can tell you some of the hardest positions we've had to fill are entry-level positions, people who work in the warehouse. Skill set like truck driving, very hard to find Class A CDL licensed truck drivers. They're in short supply over the whole U.S. There's a massive shortage of drivers who are licensed to drive semis. So if you're looking for a part-time gig,
I think Mike would do it well. Let's get to the money part, because any 501c3, any nonprofit social service agency has problems with that. So please help us understand your budget and the sources of your funding. And I mean, to be able to give, you got to get. So tell us about it.
Sure. The budget that we have for 2019 is $1.9 million. So we need to raise $1.9 million this year in order to do the work that we have planned to do. And so that money comes in from probably 35 different funding sources. We don't have a major entity that provides us with a huge sum of money. Some believe that we are operated out of funds from the government.
Right.
We're not.
Interesting. But they provide you food.
They provide
Maybe?
us with some food. Most of the food does not come from the government.
Really?
Yeah, the government provides us with one food supply that we have. It is the USDA government commodities that they purchase. 40 years ago, it was the old government cheese program.
I know it was going to be the cheese.
Yeah. And so now that program has morphed into about 30 or 40 really great items, really very high-quality items. They pay us a contract fee for the distribution. And that contract, I think this year, is maybe for $76,000. That's great. Love to have it. But the cost of us to do that work is about twice what that money covers. So that's our government relationship. So government money is not a big part of our funding budget. We are a member of, I think, 4 United Ways in different counties.
Oh.
We're in good standing and have some community support from, I think, about every community foundation in the different counties. We have a pretty aggressive direct mail program that we're mailing things to your home, and you open it up and you hear a story about some of the work we're doing, and if you are interested, you can send us a check. So we receive funding along those lines. We also get some of the money that we operate on from the agencies that we serve. So we provide this donated food to agencies, and they are paying part of the logistical costs to get that food moved from where it is to us and from us to them. They're not buying the food, they are paying part of the logistical cost.
Who would be some of those organizations? Are you allowed to say?
Oh, sure. 115 different agencies. So locally, Christian Ministries,
Oh, great.
Let Us Feed You Body and Soul,
Blood and Fire.
Blood
Inside
and
Out.
Fire, Urban Light, different community organizations.
What about preschools and childcare? Any of those in that mix?
You know, we have had them. They kind of come in and out. Sometimes they want to work with us for a period of time, and then times that they don't. The Muncie Mission is a good example. We
true.
work with the mission for a while, and then sometimes they go a different direction and get resources from other places. That's fine. Salvation Armies,
Right.
receive some of their food from us. So as these agencies order the food that we have that's donated, we ask them to pay part of the logistical costs. So for example, if it costs us 25 cents a pound to get the food in and get the food out, they're paying us on average somewhere around 10 cents a pound.
Interesting. You said donated food a few times, and the government donates food. Are there other organizations that donate food?
Sure. So in the 8-county region, we are in connection with about 41 different grocery stores
Oh,
and also warehouses and distribution centers.
why would a for-profit grocery store donate food?
Well,
Just came out of my mouth.
that's fine. Well, that's a good question. The answer is because they have inventory that at some point is deemed to be unsaleable. So, for example, every day, the person in the produce department goes through the produce rack,
Yep.
and they pull things off that maybe have a scar, or they're starting to turn a little, and so they're not really meeting the specification to sell anymore.
Right.
So they pull them off. The meat department puts products out in the meat case, and if they don't sell in 3 days, they pull it off. They're going to need to get rid of it. So they freeze it. We go to the stores, pick all this food up, get it redistributed. The Walmart distribution center in Gas City is a big donor of ours. Nestle in Anderson, Prairie Farms Dairy in Anderson. And because we're a member of Feeding America, we have access to a website that is available only for Feeding America food banks that lists all these semi-loads of food sitting all around the country that are available to be donated.
My.
So we're able to go through a process and acquire some of those loads of food, bring them to Muncie, put them in our inventory, and then redistribute them.
For the cost of moving,
Right,
for the logistics.
right.
Interesting. All right. So you say you have about 34 or 5
It's
basic.
a rough number, yeah.
Yeah.
We do fundraisers, we do special events to try to offset that difference between the money that we receive from those sources and what it costs us to operate.
Okay. Has this changed over the 20 years that you've been involved with the organization? Has how you do it now changed from how it was?
Oh, sure. I mean,
what way?
the grant cycles and all those kinds of things tend to not necessarily repeat year after year, and so you can't go necessarily to the same funders with the same request year after year after year after year. They like to see creativity, they like to see variety, and so we need to change and grow along with that as well.
Okay. How has your organization been impacted by local, state, and federal regulations?
Well, I can't say that I believe that there's been a huge impact in changes in local or state. We're inspected from a food safety standpoint from the state level, from the federal level, from the county level. We have a lot of people who come in and do audits of what we do. We also have to pass a national standard that is through our Feeding America contract. We have a third party that is coming in to inspect our facility. We're graded on the same standard that the national food producers are graded on. So people like the ConAgras, the Tysons, and all of the folks that produce food, we have to operate our warehouse with the same level of food sanitation, food safety.
That's fair.
Yeah, and it's good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to say we've done very, very well in those inspections.
Excellent. Do you have any connections to other particular local faith communities? You mentioned First Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
What about others?
Well, I think we're on the radar of most faith-based organizations. As I said, we supply food to a lot of church food pantries, soup kitchens. Many churches do outreaches of all different types, and some aren't necessarily receiving food from us, but they may choose to partner with us financially. And they sometimes will choose an agency that they will send us money for that agency to be able to utilize our sources.
I see. I see.
So in terms of a faith-based organization, although our name, Second Harvest, is a biblical concept, we're not a faith-based organization, but I think we're made up of many, many people who have a strong faith.
So the culture is there, even though it's not the primary thing. Okay. So, Tim, your board members, how do you select your board members? How many are on your board? Who do you look for to be on that board?
Always looking. We currently have 10 on our board, and so we have opportunities to grow that. There are spaces on the board that aren't full. So last year I think we had 12, and so we really like to try to reach out into other communities, other counties. So we have board representation from a variety of places, not all necessarily Muncie-centric.
Right.
We do have board members now from Madison County and from Henry County. We also like to get different walks of life, because I think it's very important for lots of different voices to be heard. It's always helpful when you have someone from the food industry on your board. We currently don't have someone from the food industry on the board, but we have had over the years, and it's been very, very helpful. Skill sets on the board, I think wanting to be involved in the community is really important. We like people to be on board, not just on the board, and so engagement is an important piece for us.
Very good. Do you have anything more you'd like to add to help us know all about Second Harvest?
I think the only piece I'd like to add at this point is what we referenced before this conversation started.
Good.
We want to figure out a way to engage families that are young families with children, 0 to 5. We've learned a lot in the last 3 years about relationship building and the power of that, and also the engagement of families, between families and schools. And understanding that, we know that much of the table's already been set when a child starts first grade. And so we really believe that if we're going to give our schools the best opportunity that we can as an organization, we need to figure out a way to engage with people that have kids 0 to 5. And I don't know how we're going to do that yet. That's one of the challenges that we have in front of us, whether it's 2019, 2020. But I truly believe we're going to be in that arena. I just don't know exactly how just yet. But we believe that we need to be there in order to help facilitate that growth that really sets the stage for us to live into this idea of shortening the line of need. That's what we're about. The long-term piece for us is to put ourselves out of business.
Very well. So not only are you trying to break the isolation of a lot of the families who are your clients, you're also trying to build the relationships that help them be mentored and supported.
We're looking for any way that we can to create opportunities for those connections that need to be made in order for people to be able to lift themselves up.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And for your wisdom and for your service.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.